First off, thank you guys so much for showing so much love on the last video. I appreciate you guys. I'm extremely grateful for you guys. My name is Jordan. I've been sober since September 28th of 2012. I love recovery. I love sobriety. I love alcoholics. I love anything that has to do with someone bettering their life. You know what I mean? It's the holiday season, so I wanted to jump on here and tell you guys this. I'm going to get straight to the point. A lot of people want to get sober. A lot of people need to get sober. But are you willing to do whatever it takes to stay sober? So I got out of treatment. It's October 28th, so a month later is Thanksgiving. My grandma and grandpa have a big dinner. My aunties and uncles all show up. All my cousins show up. The only day of the year that both of my uncles are sitting on the little couch over there, and I'm sitting right there on the other couch, and we all got a plate of food, and we're all watching football. My grandpa's over there with his plate of food watching football as well. And that does something for a young man that loves sports and loves his uncles, you know what I mean? And it's just I guess it's kind of like a love language that that happens within our soul that us as young men or men don't like to speak about, you know what I mean? But it's that type of situation. And my grandma's sitting over there on the table smiling because the house is filled with love, with faith, with hope. And that's how our Thanksgivings are. Nothing but happiness, right? Because my family, we're a tight-knit family, and I love getting together with them every year. And one thing with long-term sobriety is you can't just want it, you can't just need it. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes to get it. So my mentor tells me, I don't think it's a good idea for you to go home for Thanksgiving. You've only been out of treatment for a month. And I look at him and I tell him, I honestly remember, I'm like, man, you don't know me. You don't know my family. You don't know the relationship between me and my grandma. I'm her baby. You don't know the relationship between me and my grandpa. I'm his baby. You don't know the relationship between me and all my cousins, man. We go outside and we play football. You don't know the relationship between me and my uncles. It's the only time of the year I get to see them. You don't know my family. You know, we're a Native American tight-knit family. And he says, I thought in the beginning you said that you were willing to do whatever it took to not break your grandma's heart. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, this is something that you got to be willing to do to have long-term sobriety. He says, I don't know if you're going to get loaded if you go back home, but I know if you don't go back home, you won't get loaded. Because a lot of people want to get sober, man. A lot of us know people that need to get sober. But are you willing to do whatever it takes to stay sober? My friend, man, one of my best friends, he calls me every single time he's in county jail. And he says, Jordan, I want to get sober, man. Jordan, I need to get sober, man. What do I have to do to stay sober? What do I have to do to get sober? So I'm like, okay, so let's get a hold of your probation officer. I have conversations with them, and we get an address set up, a release address set up, and I get in contact with the Oxford sobriety houses, and he has an address to get out to because he wants to get sober, and we all know that he needs to get sober. He has two gorgeous, beautiful, freaking amazing daughters. One is in high school and one's a little younger, and they're just gorgeous, amazing human beings, and you can just tell that they need their dad, you know what I mean? But he gets out of jail or gets out of county jail or prison or whatever, and he doesn't show up. It doesn't mean that he didn't want to get sober. It doesn't mean that he doesn't need to get sober. It means that he's not willing to do whatever it takes to get sober or to stay sober. I wanted to talk about this during the holidays because it was something that happened to me during the holidays. Thanksgiving was a huge deal for me, but I had to be willing to not go to Thanksgiving if it meant my sobriety. So if you know someone if you want to get sober, or if you know someone that needs to get sober, or if you need to get sober, you have to be willing to maybe not go home for Thanksgiving, or you got to be willing to maybe not go home for Christmas, or you got to be willing to not go out on New Year's. You maybe be willing to wake up early and go to sleep early on New Year's, or just not go out, or just watch the ball drop on TV or whatnot. It's very simple. It's sometimes not easy, but it is very simple to stay sober, or for people in recovery to stay sober during the holidays. It's simple but not easy. You just got to be willing to do whatever it takes. So one of the most important things, or I think as far as like in very early sobriety, or like unable to get sober, is honesty. You have to be willing to get honest. You have to be willing to not only be honest to others, but stay honest to yourself. And something I didn't understand that. So I remember asking my counselor. He was like, Jordan, you got to be honest with yourself before you can be honest with others. And I was like, what do you mean? I am honest with myself as far as I know. And he was like, you have a bag of M&Ms in your pocket, and you know that the rules are no candy or food in the auditorium. So you're lying to yourself. And from that day forward, I never brought food or snacks or anything into that auditorium again. He said, when you know the rules, when the crosswalk says walk, walk. When the crosswalk doesn't say walk, you know, don't walk. So don't walk just because it's clear, because you're breaking the rules. It's honest. You got to be that honest. You have to be willing to be that honest with yourself if you want to stay sober. So it's not a matter of wanting to get sober and needing to get sober. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes, even if it's something as such as being honest with yourself, following the rules in treatment. You have to be willing to say sorry to people you've hurt. You have to be willing to pay back debts that you have created. You have to be willing to talk to people that may not like you and apologize to them for your wrongs. And then you have to be willing to right the wrongs that you did. You have to be willing to go to jail if you have a warrant. You have to be willing to do the next right thing all the time. You can't just want to get sober. You can't just need to get sober. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes. So like I said, for me, that means surrender. You have to be okay with saying okay. You have to be willing to say okay. So if you know somebody, or if you are affected by alcoholism or addiction, and you know someone that needs to get sober, or they want to get sober, or maybe they don't want to get sober, but you know that they need to get sober, they have to find a way to surrender, to be okay with being willing to do whatever it takes to get sober. And I honestly believe for anyone, like there's over 400, 500 different tribes in America, which means there's a lot of people that have alcoholism and addiction. I believe each and every single one of you can find a way to surrender and say, okay, and not just want to get sober and not just need to get sober, but be willing to do whatever it takes for long-term sobriety. Because it'll give you a life beyond your imagination that you thought you never could have. And I just thought of this right now, but I hosted Thanksgiving this year. And who knows at my house. And who knows if I would have been able to do that if I wasn't willing to stay home that very first Thanksgiving. So, I love recovery. I love sobriety. And I honestly believe inside my heart that every single one of you that is suffering from alcoholism or addiction, you find a way to become willing to stay sober, then you can stay sober. Man, much love. I love you guys, and thank you guys.